Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Litchfield Planning Board meeting for August 6th, 2013. Let's please begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda this evening, we've invited Al Raccio, the chair of the Mosquito Control District, to come speak with us.
Just,
Good evening, Al. Yes.
One point, Mr. Bork will be the voting selectman's member tonight.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. You just came because you can't stay out of this place.
Yeah, something to do.
Yeah.
Good evening,
I'm
Mr.
not
Chairman.
voting.
Thank you
Kevin.
for granting us the time to sit with your board to discuss stormwater management and mosquito control for our town. Several years ago, I had the pleasure of sitting on your board when stormwater management first started to take grassroots in the community. I remember somewhat of the numerous volumes of guidance and material that accompanied that. But one thing that really stuck in my mind is we continued to press through the Mosquito Control District and some of its initiatives and controls early on with the help of actually Joan and myself and John. Testing and treatment of the stormwater systems, the manholes, are actually incorporated into the control larvicide program that we're currently engaged in. As the years went by, I've lost track of the various aspects of stormwater management and how it deals with drainage and swales and the actual management part of the entire program. Currently, we just went through town and did a number of slides that you helped us put up for public education. But in doing that, really became an eye-opener to how severe the current drainage and swales are regarding some of our manholes and our actual drainage. When we really started to probe down and get down in, not inside, of course, the drainage pipes, but at the outlets. And I'll use for an example, a real easy one, on Albuquerque right by the horse farm. There's two new wooden fences by the new sidewalk portions there, relatively new, excuse me. When you simply drive by, the vegetation overgrowth is immense. But when you stand there and actually look at the drainage itself, it's plugged and it's wet and it's collecting water and it's breeding mosquitoes. Our board then traversed at least a half a dozen other sites throughout town, and this became the normal theme. What I'd like to understand or propose is that we look at the stormwater management architecture, look at the 5-year town plan, and see if there's opportunity to integrate stormwater management federal funding into a program of swales and drainage upkeep, to include things like by the elementary school, for example. There's a number of wet channels that have caused us severe problems over the years with foundation and mold and seepage, as well as breeding mosquitoes right next to the park, as well as the playground. So I guess to cut to the quick, I would like to propose that the mosquito control district and the planning board, on a non-conflicting basis of prime business to execute, maybe develop a subcommittee between our boards and start to look at, are there opportunities for stormwater management funding to help us with this? How do we incorporate this into the 5-year plan and get it into the town's thought process? And equally as important, how do we do this without asking the taxpayers to dip into their pockets yet again for something that I won't say is a prime concern, but we're spending money in planning, we're spending money on the mosquito control district to control mosquitoes, and yet we're breeding them on our own. So we're kind of being a little bit counterproductive in how we approach this. And I'd like to leave you with that thought and then follow up with the committees on any extra research or work that needs to be done with our current master plan. I'm not sure where we are in the cycle for reviving the 5-year town plan, and I'm not sure where we are in the management of the stormwater management position. Used to be the planning board, it may not be anymore, I don't know. But I'd like to start the discussions along those lines.
This is some good conversation starters. Thank you for bringing this to us. Anyone on the board have comments, questions, input?
Is it still the planning board or is it the selectmen?
It's the selectmen.
That would-
Selectmen are generating the stormwater management plan, but with the situation we're faced with right now is that EPA has not formalized any final stormwater management, so the plan that was in place for, I don't know, 6-7 years now is the plan that we're continuing to go forward with. Once I was gonna say FDA, sorry. Once, once EPA finalizes their program, then a new plan would be generated, but we don't know what their requirements are gonna be. I can tell you that they presented draft program, and there was such an outcry from the different communities in the state of New Hampshire due to the cost of the program, which was in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think in Litchfield's case would have been close to $90,000 alone, that EPA, I think, has gone back to reconsider what they're gonna require. So that's the latest information I have as to where it stands.
Is there a point of contact on the Board of Selectmen that is in front of the stormwater initiative?
The town manager, town administrator, I should say, Jason Hoke, is continuing to monitor that, but talking to him or John Brunel is more than appropriate.
One last question, Mr. Chairman, regarding your 5-year plan for the town. Is that a current activity? Is that a year in the future? Are we
It's
day
not.
late and a dollar short?
It's not in front of the board at this time. It will be coming up again next year or the following.
Well, it'll be what Frank just was talking about, that Jason's currently monitoring, but in terms of the stormwater management plan, it's on hold pending the new EPA MS4 permit, which, each time you hear it's going to be out in a few months, and it's been that way for about 2 years. So you can't write a plan to address federal requirements until the federal requirements are set. And so that's what everyone's waiting for at this point.
Right, but our town's 5-year plan may or may not include elements of the federal side, but should include elements of maintenance and possibly, dare I say, new activities.
Right.
And that could be augmented with or without the federal plans.
Just so I'm clear, and maybe everybody else may not see the differences either. When you refer to the 5-year plan, are you talking about the capital improvement plan?
Yes,
Or-
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Or are you
Yes.
talking about
The stormwater.
the
plan.
stormwater management
Yeah.
plan?
Capital improvement plan, I apologize.
Okay.
The five, as I recall, it was a 5-year capital improvement plan. Right.
Yeah, that is the planning board.
Yeah, okay. Th- That's the plan I'm referring, is that current, is that late? Where are we in the process, so I know basically how to start researching it, looking to see if there's any articles in it already regarding stormwater management applications, not to be confused with the initiative, drainage, swales. I know we did a couple of studies for enhanced flow, and we had quite a bit of activity like that.
Looking at the capital improvements plan posted on the town website, 2014 is the end date on it. So it will be in front of us
Okay.
sometime soon.
Excellent, so that's good timing, actually.
Yeah.
Great, that's all I had, sir, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for coming in this
And
evening.
we'll be following through as well.
Can I ask just one
Oh,
question?
please
And this
do.
is somewhat peripheral to the planning board, but it's mosquito control. And that is that we have the classic ones, Eastern Equine and all of that fun stuff, West Nile virus. Have this mosquito control considered potential of looking at Lyme disease, as well as there were 2 new mosquito-borne diseases recently that popped up. I think it was New York, but don't quote me on that.
Lyme disease has always been part of our doctrine and in our plan. We've discussed it on a number of occasions. Simple activities like bark mulch perimeter around your tree line will help, will actually stop ticks cold from crossing out of the woodlands into your yard. Won't stop from being carried, but the 2 new diseases that were recently brought up, we have not. They were not part, we just finished about a 60-slide presentation on education and some of the basics that's with the cable committee now about ready to be released with our previous slides. The short answer is no on the 2 new ones yet. We haven't had a meeting since that was announced, but that is on our agenda to start to get stuff from Kevin and some of the agencies in Concord.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Tell you, the interrelation between all these, we approve a plan and mosquitoes can be bred from the pools of water from that plan. A lot of moving parts. Next item on the agenda this evening is Tanager Way. Confirmation from Lou.
Yes, I have a letter dated today, after further review of the as-built and a couple of drainage invert clarifications telephoned in by T.F. Moran, the site surveyor. I find the as-built plans for the roadway to be complete as required. And as far as the punch list that Amos Whitehead mentioned, Lou did have a generic one back in April before they paved, and he said all those items were taken care of before they paved. I have And I have also a letter from Lou. To the best of my knowledge, Tanager Way was constructed in accordance with the approved subdivision plans, including amendments in the town of Litchfield's construction standards. I have an in-place maintenance bond that expires in December of 2014. That's put in place in December of 12. And the maintenance bond calculation. And I have a deed to the road. And here's the latest as-built. So that should be,
That's all the pieces we need, isn't it?
the warranty deed was received, in November. December. Yep, that was all the pieces. So the next step would be for the board, if they care to, recommend this to the selectmen for acceptance under our new regulations that you just approved.
What does the board think of this? It's a good development.
Lou's happy, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
What time get done? You just need a motion to send it up to the selectmen.
I believe so.
Like to make a motion to send Tanager Way, as completed to the, selectmen.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think Heron is excluded from that, right?
Correct, this is just Tanager.
Just Tanager.
That's a different owner altogether.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you.
And moving on, rules of procedure. You guys remember that? This is our new road acceptance.
No. Does anyone need hard copies?
Just say Homes by Paradise.
Do not. If you all want hard copies, of everything that I had for tonight. For Joan as well. Okay. Do you want to start at the top and look at revisions that have been made since the last meeting? Or do you want to go to where we left off?
Let's dig deeper into it. Let's go where we left off. And then we can review everything that we change at a future meeting.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you, or do you want to review, do you have any questions or?
It doesn't matter. I mean, at this point, I'm gonna make revisions. It doesn't, you know, where I make revisions is either at the top or somewhere in the middle. So,
Yeah, let's push through as far as we can this evening. And then we can all review it at our leisure after you've had a chance to massage it.
okay, so that's from the top or the end, or the middle?
Middle.
All right. So if you flip somewhere in the middle to page 6, there's a big arrow that points to where we left off.
Yep.
Are you referring to the August 5th
Yes.
PDF document?
Yes. Okay. Public hearings.
the first sentence
Yes.
says public hearings, or hearings, I guess. It doesn't say hearings, I guess. But it says should be held as required by New Hampshire revised statutes annotated.
Oh, we missed statutes there, huh? Okay. Simple enough. So this just has some corrections of statutory references. Um, doo, 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 doo. Two should, actually, that added new language should be subdivision regulation proposed or board, no, that's correct, sorry. Simply clarifying that you hold hearings not just for proposing and reviewing subdivision regulations, but also for review of applications or proposals under. C just adds in a butter notification.
One thing on A, is
Yes.
there anywhere in there you've got master plans, but how about capital improvement plans?
Yep.
I don't know what the reference is.
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head. Okay.
It helps, it's RSA 674:5 through 8 authorizes the capital improvement plan.
Oh.
I
You have it
just
open there?
happen to have that open, yeah.
All right.
Paragraph C should be, second sentence, not less than 10 days prior to the date fixed.
Okay, should that be the date of the hearing, fixed for submission?
No, because the first step in the process is the application gets submitted to the board for acceptance.
Right, but I think John's
No.
point is for acceptance of the application.
Yeah, not submission,
Okay.
acceptance,
Sure.
It's also, should be all abutters and any professional whose seal appears, and anyone who holds an easement on abutting property. I don't know how they word it, but it's also anybody who has an easement.
Okay.
So we're only gonna have male chairman?
Let
Hmm?
me see that.
I'm on the next page,
Oh.
first sentence.
Absence.
Well, you know, that's what your regs currently say, although Karen was tempted, and there might be a few locations, that she may have written his, her. Would you like to render this gender neutral throughout? I mean, we can make a pass through the whole document to render all of it gender neutral.
We have had
You
women
have-
chairs before.
You have had women on the board before.
Right. So,
I think you should.
It just so happens that, huh?
I think you should. Why not if you're
Yeah.
reading
Okay.
it?
All right, so that's just gonna be a throughout. Okay. Okay. Continuing on D. Just adding some details to the process of a hearing.
On 7, each person who speaks indicate whether she, he is a part to the matter.
Party.
Party.
In, starting at line 3,
Mm-hmm.
you want to make any changes in there for consideration of acceptance, where you may not even have the applicant or sponsor, as you call it, speak during that phase? What you're really doing is just going through, making sure that the application's complete for acceptance.
So this portion here, good point. So,
I don't know how you do that.
yeah, so I think this part here is really focused on, okay, you've accepted your application, here's the process of conducting the hearing, but you're right, it doesn't necessarily, it skips the acceptance
part.
procedures, and it also skips development of regional impact, which is that little intermediary piece. So yeah, let's look at adding,
Maybe you want to say, call upon the applicant or sponsor of any proposal to present the proposal, or in the case of application acceptance, blah, 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 blah.
okay. Okay. Okay, part of the trick here is I think it's also trying to ensure that this is generic enough that it can address either a hearing for an application before the board or a hearing by the board to, for example, look at road regulations, or a regulatory change. So I think that's part of the reason it was so generic. But we can add some additional bits though that clarify that in the, for applications, and add those additional details. E and F are additional language that is not already in the bylaws. E pertains to issuing a written decision.
Historically, what I've seen done by the planning board is if an application is rejected,
Mm-hmm.
you're obligated to enter into the minutes of the meeting
Yes.
the reason for rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, where would that be contained? It says here that you'll make it available within 5 days.
The minutes.
Right.
Right. And so then this piece here is the written notice that has to be issued to the applicant themselves directly.
Right, but when you make a statement as to why you've rejected it
It should be recorded.
in the minutes.
Yes.
But it also should match what's given to the applicant.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
fortunately haven't seen anybody get into a jam yet where they differ, but
Mm-hmm. Okay.
now reconsideration,
Yes.
there's a time limit on reconsideration. If I'm not mistaken, it's 30 days.
I believe you are correct.
And maybe what we ought to state is that the board may reconsider a decision if it's within that 30-day clock.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's outside that 30-day clock, then basically
Stands.
the
Mhm.
board is not able to reconsider.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to reconsider something that's been in place for a few years. That wouldn't.
Well, and I don't even know whether, are they, is an applicant able to appeal back to the planning board? Or is it by law, they can only go to Superior Court,
Superior Court.
I think, yeah. So when would the planning board reconsider? I guess only under court order, right?
Yeah, if it's a.
Or if something came up after the fact that you realized that was completely absent or missing in the process, that would be kind of,
You could open it back up, but
you could open it back up, but it's,
Yikes.
yeah, not pretty.
yikes.
That's when you call to council first before you do anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Obviously, if there's a court order, then you would obviously have to do it.
yeah.
Nah, just blow the judge.
Just want to pull up. Scrolling. Board handbook.
On page 6, I just noticed on C, you have personal notice shall be made by certified mail to an applicant. All the butters and any professional whose seal appears on any plat not less than 10 days prior to the dated
Date.
Date.
date. Okay.
Okay. So reconsideration is part of RSA 677-15. Just kind of going back to that and pulling some of the details. Reconsideration, boards may reconsider their own decision within the statutory time period for appeal to Superior Court, which is the 60 days.
Oh, it's 60 days, okay.
I mean 30 days, sorry. I'm mixing up numbers here in my head. So the 30 days is correct. The board's rules of procedure should outline the process for reconsideration or include a reconsideration provision in the subdivision and site plan regulations. And then it just goes on to outline procedure for appeal. It doesn't give, they don't give examples of why a board might reconsider.
Man, talk about putting yourself into a legal,
Well, perhaps the reconsideration is an opportunity to not end up in the legal mess, because it's, you know, you can reconsider within that appeal period, and so if you know that they are going to appeal, perhaps it's a brief window to open things up, negotiate, and resolve before it does. So, I mean, that to me would be less scary, but. Okay.
Unless it was something serious, I don't know.
well, it says here that the planning board may reconsider for good
Good
cause,
cause.
which is the classic state law way of saying you better really have something.
Yeah, I'm good. Reason.
Yeah. But also saying, we're not gonna figure it out for you, you better, we're leaving that one on your shoulders.
Maybe you want to specify what good cause could be here.
Define it.
Maybe that's information not presented during consideration.
Okay.
Maybe it could be,
New information becomes available.
yeah,
I think it'd be the better.
and it better not be just because you decided you didn't like it.
Buyer's remorse. It would take a motion to be voted on by the board, so that the whole board would have to be working together to
Yep.
reopen the
Would it
reconsideration.
make sense, though, to the point that you stated a couple moments ago, that maybe a applicant can request reconsideration within that period? And that's something the board needs to decide whether that's what it wants to go down.
Reconsideration instead of appeal to the courts.
Yeah, and you would save yourself the aggravation of going to court and everything else, depending upon, I mean, you may make the same decision,
Mhm.
or you may decline to reconsider, and in fact, that's something you ought to state, that the board will make an affirmative decision to reconsider, or will decline reconsideration, somewhere in here as well.
But again, I would then put that onus of for good cause on the applicant's shoulder, that there's gotta be something new or different.
You can't just do it over and over and over again to
Right.
get the answer you want.
Right.
That's like that.
But you ought to also state in here that if you're going to reconsider, you should also notify abutters.
Okay.
I agree, I think you
Yeah.
should reconsider before the court system, because what if it's just a piece of, some of their information came up, then why go through the expense of
Exactly.
lawyers?
Right.
No offense.
Yeah, those ticks of the legal profession.
I'm excluded.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
But then just to split hairs, how do you define what kind of evidence is brought forward? Because to the applicant, any evidence is something, you know, I mean, it becomes a gray area, but I think I'd rather see that than have it go to the courts and come back to us.
Mhm.
Have we historically had a problem with this? Like, over? So it's
No, but it's-
the rare situation that you wanna cover yourself for?
Yeah.
I have not seen a planning board reconsider. I have seen planning boards decline. And in fact, I don't know, some of you guys may have been on the board when we declined the antenna over at,
The church?
the church. And we declined it because it was it was not a complete application. So we declined it at that point, and then they came back the next meeting with everything that they needed to have. So we declined acceptance, but I did a,
Mhm.
but I would clearly, if you're gonna do reconsideration, I would clearly state, you know, your time limits for doing it.
Mhm.
Put the onus, as Jen said, on the applicant to prove that there's a good cause for reconsideration. And then have the planning board, make an affirmative decision to reconsider or to decline to reconsider. And if you decline to reconsider, that's it, it's done. What happens in the terms of time period if you go through reconsideration?
If you go through reconsideration, your clock restarts.
For 65 days?
That's a good question. It's the appeal clock that restarts after the new decision has been reached. So I would guess you start everything over and you have a new 65-day clock if you do choose to reconsider.
Is that a law, or is that something that we could decide? Is that an RSA, or is that?
Well, the 65 is statute for an application that comes before you. Second. Bookmarks. No. I know how to use this thing, I swear. Bookmarks. Just don't know where I have them.
It also says here, this may be, if you're doing a reconsideration, this may be done through a motion and it specifies the reasons for reconsideration. I wonder if, would the board be interested in making that like a requirement?
Yeah, notice.
Not may, but must.
Yeah, we can do the shall.
Shall.
Yep.
Put in a motion.
Okay. Um, just looking for the actual statutory language, see if there's more details.
Nah.
There's search. Finding page. Okay. Rehearing. That's our magic word. Okay. All right, so within 30 days after any order or decision by the zoning board, never mind. We request rehearing.
The only one that I know of that in the time cycle is on the ZBA.
Hmm.
Anything other ones, the planning board has top lunch. Guys coming in asking for reconsideration after you guys denied it, that's just a time cycle. It's not as open up the case, it's a reconsideration. Then if you open it up after you vote, it starts out the time cycle of 65 days and the new application.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Because you killed it. Well, they want to reapply again for a new application, think something new. If they got new information to bring with it, it's a separate issue. On the planning board side, on the zoning side, that's a separate issue. That's all
Yeah.
dictated by law.
Right.
Okay. You're pretty open. You killed it. Now he kind of wants to come back and beg for mercy on something else, and that's basically what he's asking. It's water over the dam, the decision's been made. You reapply, started out with new information, you should have had that information prior to. Yeah. These are forms.
Yeah, please.
You saw what I wrote.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
There's what's missing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to do a little bit more research on this, actually, looking in closer. Because the OEP's planning board handbook uses, which section? 674-15. to talk about appeals and says land use boards may reconsider, but then when you read through section 677, it's zoning board. Or any decision of the local legislative body. So, in terms of, well, I mean, for planning board decisions, there's still a 30-day appeal period, but the appeals to Superior Court.
Superior Court,
Yeah.
That's their last option. If you guys deny it or reject it, they have an appeal process through the statute. Well, like anything else, if they bring something new that what not new that you guys did here, it's separate. It's like a zoning case, same thing. You're selling a tax rate.
Mm.
It's not nice.
Yeah, so,
Are you saying?
before
that
we
the-
get too crazy, I wanna see if OAP's giving us bad advice.
They
is what
would
I'm
never
saying.
do that, would they?
Not intentionally, they're good people.
Didn't you work for OEP?
Yeah.
Never mind.
My name might be somewhere on there in the publication, I don't know.
So what are you thinking, that there may not be an appeal, or
A reconsideration, I mean, it's 677 is pretty clear. It's Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals, and local legislative body, which is not the planning board.
Maybe that's something you wanna bounce up to, town council?
Yeah. So, okay. See, you guys ask questions, I pull up the statutes, I read through it, find interesting things. Through the rest of this, there's no changes until, page 8, applications and forms. Trump's added site plan review regulations. And just the completed application shall be accepted by a majority vote, and scheduled for consideration within 30 days. And if it's not properly completed, it shall be rejected. That's it. That's the end. We didn't have much to go when we left off the last time.
Yeah.
Do you want to run back to the beginning and just go through the changes really fast, or you want to move on to other stuff?
Are there any points that you want us to pay particular attention to? I figure we can go for probably like another 7 minutes. We'll come up to the top
Okay.
of the hour, and then we'll switch topics.
All right, so really fast, anything that's in yellow highlights is what I worked on and is different from the last time. If it's not yellow highlights, you've already looked at it and had no comments, or the only changes were editorial as opposed to substantive. 3, membership in terms of office, 3, then item 3. That one's still a little funky. I need to play with that a little, because this was the piece where, you know, in theory, the secretary of clerk of the planning board, once you have a name, sends it to the town clerk to record the appointment and expiration date, but the town clerk's the one already doing the swearing in, so they already know. So it's more just a matter of one, you need the town clerk to confirm that they've been sworn in, and then two, the planning board maybe responds with,
Thank
working
you.
this one through out loud.
Yeah.
Planning board responds with, the expiration date of the term. 1, 2, 3, B. Okay. The bid on the alternates, nothing, saying that was just in, same with above, it's just under membership, it's just adding the sentence that members and alternates continue to serve until they have a replacement. Moving on to page 3. Okay, so page 3, section 2 at the top, this is the one where we worked through quite a bit about the role of alternates when they're not called up to serve as a regular member. Part of what I did here is I reformatted section 2, so we clarify that there's two different parts of the meeting. You got the parts of the meeting when you have hearings, and you have everything else when it's not a hearing, for A and B. Trying to address the two separately, to clarify, and we talked about the whole participating in deliberations and which part of it was deliberations. Is it the discussion? Is it the motion? Is it the discussion after a motion's been made? And what you had last time was the model sample language from OEP, which is the most conservative view of what alternates are allowed to do, which seemed a little bit restrictive, too far or further than it necessarily needed to be. So I've come up with the alternate sentence here, so that it's clear that they can participate, interact during the hearing, but they shall not make or second motions, participate in deliberations after a motion has been made, or vote on a motion. So it's that whole motion-making process.
That's
Motion making and voting. That's the part where it's capped. Nothing about making them leave the table and go sit in the audience. Just
Yeah, sit there quietly and we'll do our thing, yeah.
let the voting part be by the folks that are assigned to vote, sitting to vote.
Yeah.
Right. And then B, again, during all other portions of the meeting that do not include a public hearing, fully participate exclusive of any motions or votes that may be made. Keeping it simple. Did the alternate language there on 2A kind of get to that nice happy medium that we were hoping to get?
I think so.
Yeah, it sets it clearly where the line is.
Yeah.
It still allows them to participate up until that point.
Mhm.
I really want to have as much participation as possible in these discussions,
Yeah,
but having that clear end point
yeah.
where it becomes a deliberation helps.
And I think as most all of you can attest, having been alternates, it's a good process to kind of learn the ropes
Yeah.
and be ready to jump in. And you never know when someone's going to be absent, and you're going to need to step in. So, getting to know the process is key.
Never know when you may become chairman.
There you go. Okay, next set of changes, page 4. Okay, so we deleted 2 bits because we looked at it and said, those just don't sound right. A little antiquated. They also didn't necessarily match current statutory language or anything else out there. So, gone. I looked further at, so we talked a good deal at the last meeting about part 4A, about the situations under which a member should recuse themselves. Just doing a little bit of research here. This list is drawn from RSA 500A12, which is jurors examination. And the list that you had in your bylaws almost directly matches the list in statute.
We could have Mr. Croto do a voir dire.
Good.
Well, what? What?
Voir dire procedure. Questioning jurors.
Oh, nothing. Forget. So the only change to the list that you all had suggested was 7. Employed by or employs any party in the case, including, and I went to what you have in your regulations for who has to be listed on the plans that get submitted to you. So it's the engineer, the architect, the land surveyor, soil scientist, whose professional seals appear on the plat. And that actually was part of, well, is employed by or employs any party in the case. That was in section 500 and not on your list. So I just took 500 and expanded it. Sure, that was that. I'm still doing a little bit of research to see if you can do that member of the immediate family piece. That's why it's highlighted in a different color.
Right.
Nothing that I've found in writing says member of the immediate family. So, still looking. Hit a little snag in doing some research. Municipal Association has password protected all of their resources online so that it's members access only. And we are members, but no one in the office seems to know what our username and password is, except possibly Carrie, who's on vacation. So I am locked out temporarily. So I've got to call in to see if we can figure it out in the meantime. So nonetheless, the world is not going to end before Carrie returns from vacation or we have a username or password to get materials. But I was a little surprised when I discovered that it was password protected now. The other changes were just smaller ones. And that was it.
Now you crossed out B and C.
Yes. Because at the end of the conversation we had last time, I had big X's on those 2 sections after the conversation. Because a majority vote of the members of the board cannot decide whether someone sits.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I raised that,
And
but I
I
think
rewrote what they were.
a majority vote of the board
And the
can recommend.
Right, and I think we have something to that effect up above now. No, we don't.
And in fact, if you look
Okay.
at, if you
Yeah, we
look
can-
at county and city, there was an article on that.
Which I
As a matter
can't,
of fact,
that's the one I was trying to get. It was, I've got the list here, January 2011 was one. Is there a new one?
yeah,
Oh, I'll have the recent one. I didn't read the most recent one. 'Cause there was an article in January 2011. I wanted to grab. Town and City. I have the new one.
it was just recently that it came out. I
Okay.
don't know whether it's in the past.
I'll look through the more recent ones. Okay. Don't worry about it. I'll look through the more recent issues.
I don't have it anyways.
Okay.
If you could remind me on C, why did we strike that? Because doesn't an open litigation, if someone was in a decision process, should not have been there, and then we uphold the decision? Because this is saying if that happens, the decision of the board is invalidated. I guess if you look at it, that's a benefit of the applicant or not, but does that open you up to legal recourse because we don't invalidate it when we did something wrong against our own procedures?
I think it all goes back to the issue of the planning board cannot exempt an individual who's duly appointed to serve from
Okay.
participating. So in other words, if we all of a sudden decide, well, Mike, you know, we think you have a conflict and we vote to exclude you.
Yeah.
We're breaking the, we basically can't do that.
Mm. It's up to each individual member to disqualify themselves.
Now, what we could do is vote to say, Mike, we do not recommend that you go forward with participating. And then it's up to you to determine whether you feel that,
No, I understand that point. Why was C there before then? That's in the current.
No,
Okay.
it's old.
All right.
Um, There is a piece down below, what's now C. If uncertainty arises, as to whether, this might get to your one you just said. If uncertainty arises as to whether a board member should disqualify her himself on the request of that member or the request of another member of the board shall vote on the question whether that member should be disqualified. Such request and vote shall be made prior to the commencement of any required public hearing. A vote, question of disqualification shall be advisory and non-binding and may not be requested by persons other than board members. So that gets to what you were saying, that the board can still, a majority of the board can vote and give a recommendation. My personal belief also is that if there's any uncertainty, that you should also just disqualify yourself. You know, if there's the chance, it's better safe than sorry.